Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
I do not kill with my gun. He who kills with his gun has forgotten the face of his father. I kill with my heart.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
Bedelia, where's my Father's Day cake?
God damn it. And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork.
I want my cake.
And welcome to the It Modcast podcast.
Man, I'm out the loop. What was that from?
What? Creepshow, motherfucker. If you were a visitor or a secret society of filmmason, you would have joined us at the Alamo Draft House last Wednesday where they had the screening.
I've attended some screenings. So does that officially make me a member?
No.
You were at the Star Trek V screening.
Yeah, and for the Wilder people.
You were a guest. You're a special guest.
So how many screenings do I have to attend to officially become a member?
So you're 2 deep right now?
I think so.
You're third. You get your third hole punched in your
Mad
card.
Max wasn't. Mad Max was that's 3. I'm a member.
No.
I'm a member.
That's a special birthday screen.
Yeah, that was a birthday screen.
But that was still
a badass birthday. Oh my god! Don't make me. You're making me blush. Look at my face. Anyway, we are back. There's a significant lack of estrogen in the Dork Cave right now.
Yeah, it's a sausage party today.
Sausage fest. Wife Dork is out, so we're gonna take advantage of that. We're gonna do shit and say shit that we wouldn't normally say because of her presence. So
penis.
Yeah, dick.
Penis.
Balls. Nuts.
Testicles.
Testicles are funny. All right, Brian. It's been a while since we had a legit weekend.
I know.
We got Comic-Con sort of out of our systems, but not of our hearts.
Never.
Let's see. So, what have you been doing with your time post San Diego?
Man,
not watching anything good.
I know. I guess you'll find out. But post San Diego Comic-Con, the last couple of weeks have been rough trying to get back into the mode of regular life.
Summer's over, right? I know it's still August.
It's still August.
But is there a single movie to get excited about?
The Hitman's Bodyguard?
No.
Annabelle Creation?
No.
Are you asking questions when you say those titles, Brian?
No. Those are
statements?
You might be right. Summer might be over.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
At least cinematically, summer is a wrap.
Yeah. But so yeah. My this week I have watched a couple films, but the one I want to focus on and talk about is The Dark Tower. Now, this is the adaptation from Stephen King that has been in the making for a while, and it stars Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba and the kid who plays Jake Chambers, played by Tom Taylor. And I gotta say, this movie, now I haven't read the Stephen King book, so I'm not familiar with how extensive the mythology is with the Dark Tower itself. But I gotta say, just with this film, just looking at this film on its own merit, I found that they kind of glossed over a lot of really deep and rich mythology that I think maybe the books kind of went into. This movie, it feels like it's is tacked on at the end of a greater mythology that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of.
So this is supposed to take place after the books, right?
This is what I hear.
B, have you read the books?
Yeah, I've read all 7 of them.
So
7?
So you're cramming 7 books worth of mythology into an hour and a half film? No.
Wow. Okay. 7.
But so after,
Jesus.
so you've seen the film as well. So is the film truly picking up after the events of the book?
I mean, maybe. So for me to answer that question, I have to spoil the entire 7 books. So there's an out that technically this could be taking place after the 7th book, but the events that you're seeing in this film are from, or elements of this film are from the 7 books also.
So is it like a reality, alternate reality, dimensions or some crap?
What it is this has nothing to do with the Dark Tower, ultimately. I mean, it's so loosely connected to those books.
Yeah.
I mean, there are characters with similar names. There are ideas. There is a Dark Tower.
Yeah.
But it has almost nothing to do with the novels.
So can it be a story that just takes place within this universe? Can it be considered that?
Yeah, I mean,
does it work on that
again,
level?
because of how the 7th book ends, yes, that could be it.
Yeah.
But as such, it is garbage.
So these these characters that Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, Roland Deschain, and Walter O'Dim, the Man in Black, these are characters from the book.
And Jake Chambers.
And Jake Chambers. So these are all characters from the book.
Right.
Okay.
You got to spoil that 7th book for Brian, because Brian's confused as
I will spoil it off air.
Oh.
Okay, because I mean, again, not being a reader of these books, I mean, the film I felt was okay. I thought some of the performances were strong. I thought Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey really carried this film through. I liked Tom Taylor as Jake Chambers. I thought he was really good in that role. But again, like I said, it just feels tacked on to something that's greater. I like a lot of the ideas, like the idea of this boy has the shine being like these premonitions and these, I guess, telepathic abilities.
He has The Shining from the movie The Shining.
Yeah. So that's right. Yeah, because I do see a lot of callbacks to some of Stephen King's other.
That was probably the most fun I had. Was like, oh, Rita Hayworth poster. Oh, photograph of the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. And I saw what was the room number?
1408.
1408. Yeah, I remember seeing that as well.
And like Pennywise Carnival and.
That's right.
You see Cujo in the beginning, and the car from Christine is a toy in his bedroom.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I like a little bit of the world building that they were doing.
I want to know what's up with that script. How is the script though?
I mean, it's a basic epic tale of good versus evil.
No, I mean like the dialogue. Was it real well written, or was it like? Because the complaints I've heard outside of what you've all mentioned and how loosely based it is, Brad, on the novels. But I've heard one of the criticisms I've been hearing from multiple reviews is that the script is weak and the dialogue is pretty.
I mean, I think the film is so unmemorable. Dialogue, narrative. When I'm watching the film, it's a surreal experience. Loving the books as much as I do, because elements will creep in, but they'll creep in the weirdest and most inappropriate ways. But I try to put myself in Brian's shoes. If I knew nothing about it, and you told me this was just the first film in a potential franchise, it barely
scratches the surface.
Well, it has no room to breathe.
Yeah,
it's 90 minutes.
Yeah,
there's. And it's like trying to tell the Lord of the Rings in 90 minutes, right? There's this dark tower, and it contains all of reality, and there's Midworld and our city, and there's these mutant skin people. The Man in Black, he's a wizard who can tell people to stop breathing, and they do it, but Roland, it doesn't have any effect on him. Why? I don't know. And he can get killed by a bullet.
Who, Roland or the wizard?
The Man in Black, spoilers. Bullets hurt him.
But it was pretty cool how that bullet actually penetrated him.
Yeah, it's being shot by a gun made out of the parts of Excalibur.
That's dope. Yeah. That's badass. You
like,
lead with that.
But just looking at the film itself, it's bland to look at. The action is subpar. I think it's a ton of fun to watch Roland reload his revolver in a myriad of ways.
Yeah, that was
but
cool.
the gun battles themselves are... we just saw Atomic Blonde, and say what you will about that plot, you have a very specific geography to that action. You know where everyone is. When a punch lands, you know where that punch is coming from. In Dark Tower, you have no idea how the violence is being... where the violence is coming from, other than gunfire, darkness, Dutch angle.
Yeah.
So with that short runtime, how's the pacing? Does the pacing at least benefit from it, or
you blink and it's over?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think the first 2/3, or at least the first act of the film, is really focused on Jake Chambers, and it really feels more like his story. This story, you're kind of following him on his journey, but as the movie kind of moves along. I just think the pacing it feels rushed as it gets towards the end.
As a fan of the books, I find it sinful that Roland is not the lead of this movie,
which I thought he would be.
He should be. Instead, we have the YA story, right?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
And the Jake in this film feels like the last Starfighter. It feels like child wish fulfillment. And the Dark Tower story should be
really
a
Roland,
quest.
right?
And it's Roland's obsession with the tower that should be the focus. Instead, we have, Flight of the Navigator.
That's a shame, because while I haven't read all of the books, I've read some of the books, and my biggest takeaway is there are a lot of really cool elements that if this property, and I've heard and read people mention this very same thing, but if this property was given to like HBO to do like a series where you can break it up and take time and let these worlds and these characters breathe, like there's some really cool, like the idea of the sword, the gun being made out of like Excalibur. That's awesome. And the tower being, reality hell within it, and you have all these different worlds. Like, all of that stuff is really cool and intriguing.
That's the most insane thing about this movie to me, is it opens up, and it opens with this, like, camp for kids with The Shining, right?
Yeah, because they mentioned, like, the only thing that could bring down the tower is the mind of a child.
You have a title card, a paragraph that comes off that literally says what Brian just said.
Yeah.
And then these kids get shuffled off into this pyramid-looking tower building, and then they get strapped into these chairs, and their brain energy turns into a beam of light that jettisons into the sky, goes somewhere, and hits the tower, which is somewhere. And the only time you ever see the tower is this, faraway shot of when light is coming at it or when light is not coming at it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, where the hell is this thing?
Yeah,
and how does this thing associate with New York City? And how does it associate with Midgard?
That's the thing I was trying to figure out, too.
So confusing.
Well, my understanding is, and this was put out a long time ago, like before the movie actually went into production, and that it was wild. Well, it was a wild concept of having a film and then having your TV series and then having another film. So is it quite possible that these different elements that were introduced in the film can be expounded upon in the TV series?
That's
maybe?
what I was thinking they were going to do, because that was initially the goal for Ron Howard. He was going to do a trilogy of films with 2 TV series in between each film.
Yeah.
Now, I'm also hearing rumors that they are still developing a TV series of the Dark Tower, but it's not going to be
because the Walking Dead
with
showrunner just
former Walking Dead Glenn Mazzara is going to be the showrunner for it. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do with that TV series, and maybe they'll have more time to expand upon this mythology from the books.
But when you're watching this film, you get the idea that they are constantly rewriting the draft of The Dark Tower. It feels like they reshot a ton of this movie. In fact, you can tell because wigs change. Jake physically changes. It feels like he goes through an entire puberty cycle over the course of this 90 minutes.
Really? Now there have been rumors of some behind the scenes issue between the studio and the director and things like that.
I think the final battle certainly between Roland and Walter is not the original ending, and it's something that they shot on the cheap really quickly. And then the final moments of this movie between Jake and Roland before the credits roll, that scene is one of the weirdest climax that I've ever seen in a movie. Yeah. And it's like they ran out of money and they just had to end it.
Listeners, earmuffs. I want to know. Brad, tell me.
I mean, the last scene of the film is Roland and Jake. You know, Jake, your mom's dead. Your stepfather's dead. There's nothing in this world that you would like. You should join me in my adventures on Midworld. Well, first off, Jake, he's been to Midworld. It's a shit show.
Pretty much.
Okay? Theme parks are gone. They're relics. Yeah. Why would you want to join this guy in Midworld in this hellscape?
And they make it seem like he's going to be a gunslinger.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, join me and be a gunslinger like me. We'll hang out in the apocalypse. Jake's like, yeah, okay, I'll leave New York City for that. What? Let's just walk through this door and then flash a green light because we can't afford that portal.
Okay, now I do remember. Yeah.
And that's it? Yeah.
And that's it. Well, they enjoy some hot dogs beforehand, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jake, why don't you just get adopted by a foster family? There's other...
It's so weird, and the dialogue in that scene. And there's some fish out of water. Thor
I was
comedy.
thinking about that with Idris Elba when they were on the bus and he takes the painkillers, or when he's in the hospital.
And what do you call this? This Coca-Cola? It's sugar. What breed of dog is this hot dog? Like, yeah, it's all very funny.
Yeah,
but it's just so, inconsequential.
It's mediocre.
Mediocre.
A lot of people say, well, this is a story that shouldn't be adapted to film. I pose this. If it were given to a better director and a better writer, do you think it...
I think you can make a good movie out of the material that you find. Or a series of films.
Right.
But I literally think you could take even the script that they had in this film, this weak-ass script that they had in this movie, including that climax... Give it to a better director and you have a better movie.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah. I think so too.
I mean, this is bad. It is handled poorly.
But then I think it's also what the studio wants to invest into these properties as well. The studio isn't behind the idea of really making these stories.
I think they were at one point. That's why they buy it, and then they cut their losses. That's my review. The Dark Tower, we cut our losses.
Damn.
I could see that because it's making me think, and I don't want to add something else to my Weekend Dork, but the idea, like the Death Wish trailer that just came out, and again, going back to the studio system, because I did a reaction to this on the YouTube channel, and it kind of, this Death Wish movie looks horrible. It looks horrible.
Back in black!
Yeah. And again, it goes to the idea of like what the studio is investing in and how they want to tell these classical stories and these remakes, because this Death Wish movie with Bruce Willis and Eli Roth is not the Death Wish movie that I know of with Charles Bronson back from 1974.
Well, excuse me. Now we're about to get into the whole like reboot, remake debate, but just playing devil's advocate, like if you're going to remake Death Wish and it's not the movie, your Charles Bronson's movie, like if they did remake it and it's the Charles Bronson, like why what's the point of telling the story in the same way that it's already been told? Like just go if you want.
I mean, you could still tell it in a different way, but to do it in a way where just the tone of that trailer.
I mean, I think it's a bad trailer.
It's a bad trailer, yeah.
Two, I don't know if I necessarily want to see Eli Roth's Death Wish. Personally, I'm not a fan, so that doesn't get me excited. However, I think you could make a Death Wish movie that is like Atomic Blonde, exploitative in a 2017 kind of way.
But you got to think about it. If you're going to remake Death Wish and set it in contemporary, so would you, if you're at the studio, Brian, and you're going to greenlight a remake of Death Wish with Bruce Willis and Eli Roth, do you have that script take place now or at the same time it did in the Charles Bronson film?
No, what I would do, I would want to I would do it contemporarily.
Okay, stop right there. So if you have Charles Bronson's death, when was the last time you watched that? If you have that and what he was doing,
I've got the Blu-ray over here. You can borrow the whole series. It's awesome.
Like, you have to think about the stuff that goes on in that film. If it were to happen today, what that would feel like to an audience.
So, I mean, now we're going into like Itmod remakes Death Wish.
Yeah.
But like Death Wish, the original film, is a very 1970, you said 74?
Yeah.
It's a film of its era.
Yeah, that's my point.
I understand
exactly.
And it's built around Charles Bronson, and it's built around this idea of white society shaking in its boots in the ugly grip of crime in New York City.
Exactly.
But that's what I want to see explored in a remake.
So let's do a 2017 version, but you got to do something completely different.
Yeah.
Eli Roth and Bruce Willis are not going to do that. They are going to make a badass, diehard AC/DC action film out of Death Wish, and that's not what Death Wish is. That might be what Death Wish 3 was.
Now, but here's the thing, though. Man, I like what this conversation is just growing in all these different directions. See what happens when you're not here, Lisa? We have no control. No one's grabbing the wheel. Anyway, so if you make a Death Wish now, and you do have Eli Roth and Bruce Willis in it, and you don't do it the way that they do it, but this trailer, if you don't do it how it was done before in the Charles Bronson film, and this trailer comes out and you have the AC/DC, so it's making you feel like it's going to be this action movie and things like that. But it's quite possible that a lot of times a trailer will come out for a film and missell the film.
Sure.
Like totally,
Sure.
it won't be the
But
same.
guess
so
what?
We don't know.
But again, let's go back to the director of this movie.
Yeah.
Eli Roth's not going to make the film that I want.
Yeah.
But I think you could make a really great Trump's America Death Wish that is mean as fuck, angry as hell, and rotten to its core with a point.
Yeah. And that's something that I would like to see.
Bruce Willis trapping a dude under a car and saying, "I'm going to let Jack kill this," and pulling the Jack out. That's not a movie I give a shit about.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not what I was expecting from a Death Wish film. I wanted to see something more reminiscent to Charles
you got Death
Bronson.
Sentence. You got your Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, something in the vein of like Death Sentence, where you have a mild-mannered character that is kind of pushed to the brink of taking justice into his own hands.
Well, we haven't seen the film. Bruce Willis' character, as written, may very well be. I mean, he's obviously a doctor because in the trailer he's sitting with the lab.
Dude, he is 100% Bruce Willis. That's who he is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I didn't like the casting of Bruce.
That's why I said as written. I understand it. I totally agree.
That's why I didn't like the casting of Bruce Willis when it was announced, because he brings that persona of who Bruce Willis is.
Because he totally, in that one shot in the trailer when he's laying on his back, he's got a handgun and an assault rifle in the other hand. He totally looked like a Good Day to Die Hard.
And that's my whole point about this is the fact that it doesn't feel like it's telling a intimate story, a character driven story about this man.
To bring this back to Dark Tower and the struggle of the studio to find dollars within an IP.
And that's where I was going.
So they go down this road with this property, and somewhere along the line, through the 5 screenwriters and the different directors and the different producers and the re-edits and the recasting and the reshooting, they lose the thread. And that's how you get the Dark Tower, a 90-minute, absolutely forgettable film that 1 week from today you will never hear mentioned again, except in some ridiculous ranking of the worst to best Stephen King adaptations.
But you think that something as something like The Dark Tower with 7 books could you do this in the vein of like a Lord of the Rings or a Harry Potter, where you can make like these massive epic?
You could have easily made the Lord of the Rings into a 90-minute piece of shit, and that's what's happened.
And that's why, and that goes back to my point about the studio, and maybe because this is Sony, and we all know that Sony is damn near broke. Maybe they just couldn't afford to make that Lord of the Rings type of epic film that the Dark Tower kind of deserves.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're never going to know what went wrong.
True.
I get the idea that the people, it changed a lot of hands through a lot of people, and money was spent, and it could not be unspent.
Yeah, true.
And that's how you get the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
And, Death Wish is kind of a similar story because that was originally conceived with Joe Carnahan. His name is still on the screenplay, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to read his original screenplay.
I would, too. And I would have liked to have seen his version
of course.
Of the movie.
But, I mean, I do think you have a really great opportunity here in 2017 to tell an extremely relevant Death Wish.
True. Very true.
I don't know. It'll probably come out. It'll be gross as hell, and I'll be like, man, I love that violent shit. Eli Roth is back, guys! Knock, knock!
Because when Death Wish 3 comes out, do you blast that film for not being Death Wish 1? Or do you accept it on its own merit?
Well, I can't answer that question because Death Wish 3 has always been Death Wish 3 to me. I've grown up with it, right?
Yeah.
I love Death Wish 3 the way I love Rambo 3.
Yeah.
But is Rambo 3 the same kind of movie as First Blood? No.
Well, and I'm saying like this Death Wish with its different tone, just like Death Wish 3 having a totally different tone from the first one, maybe it could be...
I'm always hopeful. I always show up to the movie.
Yeah.
I showed up to the Dark Tower. Everyone's telling me it's garbage. I'm like, no, I'm going to find something that I like in this. And I did.
Yeah.
His name is Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Yep. And the way he reloads his guns.
I'm
going to go see it just for that alone. Because I like those little...
It's only going to be a couple of minutes.
There's this scene where they encounter, in the wastelands, they encounter this creature that can take the shape of somebody you know and love. And it's a shapeshifter. But when it reveals itself, and this is a scene that's actually from the 7th book, I want to say, or a similar scene. But the way it's shot, I think there's a really cool creature design there, but it never gives you an establishing image.
No, it doesn't. The camera moves around, especially when it starts to chase them and everything. It just,
It's so muddy. And then there's this scene where Jake goes and finds the first portal out of New York City, and he's encountered this demon that becomes this whirlwind of splinters that's made up of the floorboards of the house. And you're like, what's happening? And then it dies, but why does it die? Did his shining kill it? I don't know.
I think that was another weak story point for Matthew McConaughey to get the blood from the wood to find out who the
happens.
kid. Yeah, to find out who the kid was.
But that wood demon is in the second book.
Really?
That scene is in the second book.
But they don't do nothing with it in this film. Yeah.
It's such a weird watch.
Yeah. Interesting.
What I'm most disappointed about is that because this movie turned out so poorly, I'm sad that the TV series, which would have an opportunity to expand on things in the books to possibly benefit a follow-up movie if they do it. I'm sad that that may not happen now because this movie's gonna most definitely underperform.
Yeah.
So that's the tragedy.
It made $19 million this weekend, which is a lot more than I thought it was going to.
Yeah. All right.
You know what? We haven't talked too much. We mentioned Valerian briefly on our last Comic-Con review cast, but and that did nothing in the domestic box office.
No. Right.
But that film is so much better than The Dark Tower from a purely visual standpoint. I had a lot of problems with the dialogue and the characters and the performances of Valerian.
Yeah.
But from a visual point of view,
and like world building, establishing,
it's gorgeous. It feels incredibly rich.
Yeah.
And it feels large. Mm-hmm. There feels like there's a lot going on outside of the running time of Valerian.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Tower,
it's supposed to feel like that, right?
It should.
Yeah.
And it feels like a collection of moments stitched together by the thinnest of threads.
I can agree with that.
All right. Yeah. B, your life post Comic-Con has been comic books, right?
Well, it's been I'm every year I come away from Comic-Con, I buy a ton of comic books. Our package finally arrived from San Diego.
Yeah.
We had, we went the cheap route, so we did ground rather than air because I'm not a millionaire. And this massive box showed up, and I wasn't here at the Dork Cave when it did. Lisa picked it up, but this poor UPS guy, he was like Atlas carrying this package up the 3 flights of stairs to our apartment. And I think he even said something to Lisa like, "You guys are trying to kill me today." And, Lisa, being the lovely wife that she is, waited till I got home from work so that we could open the package together. And we break open the box, and we're just tearing bubble wrap out. And there's all my Star Trek tiki glasses, and there's the Rocket and Groot gentle giant
Do you ever
statue.
open that box and go, "Oh shit, I bought this"? Oh yeah.
Well, I had like one really interesting surprise because we had ordered the Stan Lee enamel pins from Mondo.
Yeah.
And when we went to the booth, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, the 70s version of the Stan Lee enamel pins are sold out. But we still have the modern Stan Lee enamel pin." And I was like, "Well, Stan Lee, that's awesome. It's still rad. I'm going to have an Excelsior enamel pin."
Yeah.
But then when I opened it up, we got it back to the apartment. They had given us the 70s one. They didn't even know how many of the 70s enamel pins they had. And we, coincidence, luck of the draw, I got a 70s enamel pin, Stan Lee, and it's my favorite thing ever. Check out my Instagram at Mouth Dork. I love it so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we opened this box up, and we had shipped a bunch of comic books back. We tried to bring as many as we could on the carry-on. I bought a lot of comics at Comic-Con. Some old stories that I had never gotten to. I read Grant Morrison and Jay Lee's run, Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
That's a 4-issue series in which each one follows one of the members of the Fantastic Four and how Dr. Doom is screwing with them in that issue.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
Before you heard that casting rumor about Mads Mikkelsen in the Doctor Doom movie, would you love to see?
Dude,
how awesome would that be?
That would be so awesome.
Yes.
And Noah Hawley doing a Doctor Doom movie, there is potential there.
Right?
And they can't get Fantastic Four right, and they can't get Doctor Doom right, but maybe Noah Hawley could.
And the fact that Mads Mikkelsen, he's the one that's showing interest in playing that role, that's fucking awesome.
I mean, that would be great. Again, I want the Fantastic Four to go back to the MCU.
Yeah.
But my hope, I keep hope alive.
Bad consolation prize, right?
That's great casting.
Mads Mikkelsen would be awesome.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, sorry.
And so, 1, 2, 3, 4, one of the stories is Ben Grimm, the Thing. He's tricked by Dr. Doom to go into this time staircase tunnel that transports him back to a time in which he was not the Thing and brings that version of Ben Grimm to the present. So his rocky exterior is gone. He gets hit by a car. He loses an arm. He's just a weakling. He's more self-loathing than he ever has been. The Human Torch
was denied a bank loan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to. I've been waiting. That's why I got into podcasting, just for that one moment. My life is complete. This is it. This is the last episode for me. I'm out. I'm sorry. Go.
The Human Torch. He's, Grant Morrison writes Johnny Storm like such an asshole. He's obsessed with himself. He's in a band. The band's in a part of a reality show. He's always hooking up with ladies. But the way Jay Lee draws Johnny Storm, he's always smoking. He's always, his hair is always on fire. It's given his girlfriend third-degree burns just to be around him.
Oh.
And his ego is run amok. Namor the Submariner, he's got the hots for Sue. He comes from Atlantis. He's going to take his bride finally. Sue's kind of on the outs with Reed because Reed has locked himself up into a think tank for the last several days. and he's working on a problem, and he's completely distanced himself from his wife. So you kind of understand why she may want to flirt with this hunky Atlantean
swimmer.
who shows up in like a banana hammock, and she practically faints. And it's all building. Doom has been manipulating things from behind the scenes, only to unleash from the mole man's cavernous underground this massive kaiju-sized Doombot that's going to destroy New York City.
Yeah,
it's like perfectly Grant Morrison. It's so silly, but so wonderful, and Jay Lee just destroys it on the art.
Yeah,
and just when like Doom is going to seal the deal and finally be done with the Fantastic Four, Reed steps out of the think tank, and Doom's like, I've been owning your family. They're mine. They're my puppets. What have you been doing? You've been doing nothing. And Reed simply says, I've been thinking. And because he's the biggest brain on the planet, that is like the ultimate smackdown. And because of his ability to stretch his molecules, he's literally stretched his brain to find new patterns of thought to be one step ahead of Doom. And then he just completely, you realize that he's the one who's been manipulating Doom from within the think tank. And it's just such a like high on peyote Grant Morrison turn of events that, some people are going to be like, ugh, this is some silly comic booky shit.
That's awesome.
And they're not wrong. They're not wrong, but it is so much fun. And it really does feel like a tremendous punch to Dr. Doom when he says that phrase, I've been thinking. And it's so perfectly Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I fall in love with the Fantastic Four. As a kid, I thought they were the corny, Fantastic Family. I just never understood the concept of why anybody would find them interesting.
Yeah.
But as I get older, the relationships between Reed and Sue and the tension there, I find really appealing, and I think Dr. Doom is certainly one of the best villains in the Marvel Universe, and that's why it's an incredible shame that Kevin Feige can't play with him.
Brian obviously is a fan of the Ninja Turtles, and because of their brotherhood, the idea of brotherhood and those themes, and he's also a fan. You are a fan of the Power Rangers for similar group reasons. Dynamics. Do you think Fantastic Four would be a property that he would find interesting, being that they have a family dynamic that runs through?
Absolutely. I do think he needs to have the right Fantastic Four story. Right. And is the Grant Morrison, Jay Lee 1, 2, 3, 4 the place I would have Brian start on? No. But maybe Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four or Mark Waid's run on Fantastic Four, that would be an interesting place for you to start, because it does speak to those ideas that you find so appealing in Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers.
Cool. Yeah. This comics is just so hard to get into. It's just so much.
Like where to start?
Yeah, it's so intimidating, man. I just never know where to start.
You know what? I also read Mark Millar and Brian Hitch's Fantastic Four run this week. And that's a run that I didn't pick up at Comic-Con, but it's one that I've been avoiding for whatever reason for so many years. And I finally said, I have to read this thing. I got to get caught up. That might be a cool place. It's got a lot of Dr. Doom in it. It has this really weird new villain that comes about that is basically the master of Doom. In fact, that's the title of the second arc. There's this character called the Marquis of Death, and how the Marquis of Death is disappointed in how Dr. Doom has not been able to oppress Reed Richards. That might be an interesting place. Mark Millar's the guy who wrote Kick-Ass and The Kingsman.
Yeah, Kingsman.
If you're feeling up to it, Brian, I can give you those two hardcovers tonight.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely give that a read. Yeah, I like Mark Millar. I wanted to read his Nemesis.
Oh, you would like Nemesis also.
Yeah.
And that would make a great movie.
Supposed to be. Carnahan was supposed to be doing that.
I know, believe me. Anything Carnahan's attached to, I know about.
And then the other comic I wanted to talk about was Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos reteamed once again to tell a new story with Jessica Jones. It's called Uncaged. It's the first trade paperback has just come out. They've done a few issues post this that I have not read, but I really, really enjoyed this story. Jessica Jones is released from a maximum security prison. I think it's actually the Raft, the superhero prison. And when I was reading this story, I wasn't caught up on events of the Avengers. And I didn't realize that Luke Cage and Jessica Jones weren't together at this point, but apparently they, from the point of the last time I read them in New Avengers to this, they've split up, and Jessica Jones found herself in this prison. And the story is, how did she get into this prison? Why was she released from this prison? How is she going to crawl herself out of this another life crisis? Just like how Bendis and Gaydos told her story of finding a reason to live again in Alias. That's what's happening here. It's hard to read Jessica Jones and Luke Cage apart.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have a child together now, and she has hidden their child from Luke Cage.
Oh, shit.
And he wants his kid.
Just in this book, or
just in this book.
Okay.
And I don't know how that happened or when that happened.
Right.
It kind of reveals itself over the course of this story.
Right.
But while that's happening, she takes on a PI case, and it involves a woman who says, look, my husband is telling me that I'm not his wife, that he was married to somebody else just a few weeks ago, but we've been married for 11 years. He's losing his mind. I need you to help me. And it actually ties into Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars and how all these realities have mashed together. And he has a memory of his life in another dimension.
Oh, shit.
And that's, you know, a bit of a spoiler in the first issue, but it only gets headier and weirder and more exciting from there.
Yeah.
And I love how Bendis takes what Hickman was doing in that epic that was Secret Wars and ties it into Jessica Jones' street life.
Yeah.
You know, Misty Knight shows up in it. Captain Marvel plays a big part. Who else? Iron Fist.
Yeah.
You know, as we build to Netflix's launch of The Defenders, I wanted to get back into that headspace. And I've kind of been down on Bendis lately, but Jessica Jones, these 6 issues in Uncaged, I highly recommend it. And Gaydos' art, you know, he has that hard-boiled quality that matches the misery of Jessica Jones's life in a really fun way.
Yeah.
Actually, Darren, I'm going to give this book to you.
Yes, sir.
There you go. I think that would be a great book to get you excited about the Defenders. If you can't wait, pick up the first volume of Jessica Jones Uncaged, or go back and read the 4 volumes of Alias that Bendis and Gaydos did. That dealt with the Purple Man story that you saw in the first season of Jessica Jones.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
Well, finally, I mean, I did want to talk about, I've been rambling a lot already, but I wanted to talk about Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
We all went and saw that after Comic-Con. Darren, Lisa, and myself saw it over at the Udvar Hazy on the laser projected IMAX.
Man.
And this was the biggest surprise of the summer, probably the year. I was not anticipating it in a big way. Of course, it's a Christopher Nolan film. I'm always curious.
Yeah.
You know, but Interstellar didn't really do it for me. Dark Knight Rises, I do like. I'm one of the fans, but it's not to the level that was Inception or The Dark Knight or even Batman Begins.
Are you a big fan of Inception?
Oh, I dig Inception quite a bit.
Yeah.
Love that. I think that's my favorite.
Nolan film?
Yeah.
I mean, Batman Begins is my favorite because it's
Batman.
It's Batman, and it's the only place you can go to get the entire Batman origin told to you.
Yeah.
You can't even find that in the comic books.
Yeah.
It feels like a true blue tribute to the character that we have not gotten.
So there has
cinematically.
never been a comic book. Excuse me. So there's never been a comic book series, issue, or run that chronicles his origin in that way. Like
no.
Really?
From parents getting shot to
Ra's-
training
Ra's al
to becoming the Batman? No.
So it's just like bits and pieces. So
Bits and pieces.
A book would pick up with the assumption that it's already been established that one or the other has already happened.
Right. So like, Bob Kane and Bill Finger, they told the story of his parents' death.
Right.
Frank Miller told the year one story in which he, first got together with Commissioner Gordon, and there's some stuff with Catwoman there and why he put on the cowl. There's the Boy Who Falls story about him falling through the well and encountering the Batcave for the first time. Henry Ducard, it comes from Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' story. But there's not like one graphic novel where you get that entire origin told beat for beat the way that you do in Batman Begins, and how Nolan and David Goyer incorporate the concept of fear.
Right.
And how fear pushes Bruce Wayne and the character of Batman thematically in Batman Begins, I think, is phenomenal, and will always make Batman Begins my favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Right.
Getting back to Dunkirk, I've never really experienced a war film like this before, and I think a lot of that had to do with the IMAX experience.
Oh man!
From the get-go, when they're in that village and the pamphlets are raining down, the massive frame of that IMAX shot, and how that frame, that ratio does not let up for an hour of that movie. It does change a couple times,
right?
But the majority of that movie is shot in true blue IMAX.
And when Brad's talking about true blue IMAX, he doesn't mean, you go to your AMC and they have an IMAX, which is just an extra large AMC screen. He's talking about the one where the aspect ratio is the frame is taller than it is wide, and the true IMAX is like 6 stories tall.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And Nolan's film is designed to be completely immersive.
Right.
It puts its audience on the beach.
Well, that opening shot, you're on the street. You're on that street.
Right.
Standing behind those guys a couple feet back.
And it does it in a way that I've never experienced in 3D.
Right.
Or any other gimmicky way.
Yeah.
When you're with Tom Hardy and behind his Spitfire, you are in the cockpit of that plane.
It's so interesting in that how... I don't know if this happens for you, Brad, but when you're immersed in a particular shot in IMAX and during Dunkirk, how even though the screen is taller than it is wider, your peripheral fades away, and you're totally in it.
Well, we've always talked about how I love to be in the second row. I love to look up and only see the screen.
Right.
I would not recommend the second row of IMAX.
No.
But you don't need to be in the second row. You could be 20 rows back and you feel like you're in the second row
you still have to look
of
up.
the Alamo, or you feel like you're in the first row of the AFI Silver. Your life is that movie.
Yeah.
So when you're in one of those ships and a torpedo strikes and the water fills in, I felt like... One, I've never seen that in a movie anywhere. From a Navy battle sequence, I've never been inside a ship when a torpedo is hit and lived through the evacuation of that ship.
Yeah.
And of course, I've talked about my grandfather in the past and how he was on the USS Corey, the only destroyer sunk off the coast of Utah Beach. And he was in the boiler room when the mine hit and the boiler room exploded around him, and he had to make his way up to the captain's mess to find a vest, and he walked off the deck of the ship and right into the water. And you have that moment in Dunkirk. So I found that profoundly moving in a way that I haven't experienced in a war film before. But the entire film, these 3 stories told over 3 different periods of time. The Tom Hardy and the Spitfire story takes place over the course of an hour. The story of Mark Rylance coming from the English shore to the French shore is over the course of a day, and then the story on the beach takes place over the course of a week. And Nolan just drops you into it. He doesn't explain any of that stuff.
Right.
He just gives you the title cards 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. And he even he titles one The Mole, and I didn't know that part of the beach was called The Mole, or that what do you call it? The
pier-like
the
thing?
pier.
Yeah.
You had to catch up, and you had to catch up in the lives of all these characters, and it doesn't do anything about backstory. It's all about being in the moment, and it's all about survival. The tagline being "Survival is victory," and that tagline, that idea, really hit me while watching this film. And at multiple points, I was overwhelmed with emotion over what these British kids were going through. So much so that when the film finally ended, I mean, you were there, Darren, I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
I had trouble communicating the immensity of emotion that I was experiencing. And I just did not expect that from Christopher Nolan. And, not to say that his films don't have warmth or heart or emotion in them. I am moved by Leonardo DiCaprio's story in Inception. I can't remember what the heck his character's name is. I am moved by Rachel and Bruce in The Dark Knight, and I'm certainly moved by Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. But I've never given myself so completely over to one of his films from the heart. I've always watched his films from a very critical point of view.
Right.
And this was the first time where I felt like I was swept away in what these people were going through.
Yeah.
And Hans Zimmer's score, the constant ticking of the watch that never lets up until the very end. It's not the type of score that you would throw on your turntable and listen at home.
Right.
It completely syncs up with this specific story, and it does elevate the emotional experience of Dunkirk.
And it drives home the immediacy of that particular situation for those people.
Yeah, everything is about putting you in their place.
Yeah.
And I found that to be phenomenal. And it achieves it in a way that a lot of other war films do not. Everyone talks about Spielberg's 30 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, the storming of Normandy. And it is an amazing, impressive technical feat of filmmaking. But then the narrative takes over.
Yeah.
And Dunkirk is not concerned with the narrative. There is a narrative. There are character arcs happening, but it's more concerned about giving you an idea of what these kids were doing or going through, but also Mark Rylance and all those tiny little boats, how home had to come to them and why it was so important for this country, for England, to survive this moment. And that the whole country had to come together. The civilian fleet had to come together to sustain their lifespan.
Yeah. Yeah.
The country's lifespan. This tiny island.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was incredibly impressed by it from a technical standpoint, but also an emotional standpoint. I think I've said the word emotion 100 times because I cried so much.
Yeah, that's cool. That's my key word. So
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
I mean that's really it.
Yeah.
I went to that Creepshow screening with you did in honor of George Romero, and I had a total blast with that. I hadn't seen that film in forever.
Same.
It's such a goofy, weird little movie. Meteor shit.
Fuck. I'll piggyback off that. Heading into my weekend dork. I was also at said screening. I also attended the screening of Dunkirk with you. Did not get a chance to see Dark Tower yet. I'm going to see it so that I can at least have some sort of conversation about it. I also saw Detroit, which I am not ready to have a conversation about yet, but please go see the film. So yeah, that Creepshow screening. Shout out to Ashley Davidson, who did an excellent job of hosting that. And it had been same with me. It's been a while since I had seen that film, and one of the things that I didn't notice before that I noticed this go around was how that ashtray was the connecting thing in all of the stories.
I had never seen that before either.
Same. And again, we talked about it in the lobby. Leslie Nielsen was friggin' amazing in this film. As well as Ted Danson, he was good. Adrienne Barbeau was a biatch. I forgot how horrible she was. But that was fun. Like the crate one was fun. It's weird, like the anthology, the horror anthology model of film and storytelling, and that how, depending on the story, the writer, the film, or the whatever movie or who's involved, the director, how the type of structure these stories in anthology films can take. And Creepshow, specifically how, like the first one with the Father's Day, which was where our quotes came from. Like the story structure of that, and how, like, what the payoff is, and how the payoff is really just that scene. It's a build up to that punchline of him holding a cake with the mother's head on a.
It's not
plate.
Good. That
Right.
first episode, that first segment, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I'm watching. I'm like, okay, so what? Like, not really. What's the point in that? But so it was everything just to build up just for that shot. A shocking moment or imagery, whatever. But and other stories.
And it's all about Ed Harris's dancing in that scene.
Man, he was so young in that movie. I don't even think I remembered watching it this time. I didn't even fully remember that first story. Like, only thing I remember is that was familiar to me was the "I want my cake." But everything else was new to me. Like seeing Ed Harris in that, like, man, I didn't know he was in this film. But yeah, so that was a fun watch. I do prefer Creepshow 2 though, with the story about the raft, those kids on the lake.
I haven't seen that in forever either.
Yeah, I prefer that one.
But do you find that as the film progressed, the stories did get better?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You get to that Stephen King one, which is, again, not particularly good, but it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's watchable.
Again, with like that one, it's just a meteor lands, a guy touches it, grass grows on him to the point where he's like, I can't do this, and he shoots himself in the head. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
but then you get to the Ted Danson one with Leslie Nielsen, and I think that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love the two of them.
That one's good.
Talking to each other, hating on each other.
Yeah.
And E.G. Marshall's cockroach story is a lot of fun to watch.
I thought, and going back into this rewatch, I'm aware that segment I do remember. And I thought, all right, it's been some time since I've seen this. I probably should be okay. I know there's some bugs in it. Can't really remember.
I'd love to watch it with Brian.
Oh my goodness, man!
What's that? Oh,
Creepshow. I was bowled over in my seat, man. That was
cockroaches
everywhere. That was crazy. But I enjoyed that. But I guess I want to talk about mainly for my weekend dork is, as you would know if you're not under a rock, we are in our 7th season of Game of Thrones.
Oh,
and the last episode was pretty spectacular in that it was the Daenerys, played by Emilia Clarke, and Jon Snow, played by Kit Harington. They finally met face to face. So 2 fan favorites of this entire saga series have finally come face to face, and we were just talking about the Dark Tower and how I said that I feel like that could benefit from long form storytelling format. what made this particular scene so phenomenal was the invested history that you have that was given for each of these characters. And when they finally meet, the writing and that exchange between them does not betray everything that was presented to us from a character and narrative standpoint. And it was so gratifying. But because we've had 6 seasons of who this woman was, what she's gone through to become who she is today, and the same thing with Jon Snow, so that when these two personalities, these two current personalities finally meet, it's good to see them play off of each other, but not betray everything they've gone through and who they've become. And so it just made for really good dramatic storytelling, and the writing was just so phenomenal, and the pacing of it. And then you have your supporting characters like Tyrion, who, again, he has been and continues to be my favorite character on that show. He was just great, staying true to his character. So Davros is, he's an amazing character. You just had a bunch of, oh my goodness, and Cersei having her moment, finally coming face to face with the lady from Dorne, who Ilyana, responsible for the death of Cersei's daughter.
Yeah.
In that particular scene, her getting her revenge was just, oh man.
Yeah.
Cersei is so cold with it, man. Oh man.
Is it weird that I've now become like a fan of Cersei?
But that's the thing. It's not weird. That's the aim. I'm pretty sure that's the aim of the writers of the show. You have these despicable people who, at some point in time, you not necessarily maybe side with, but can understand. And then you have the actors and the writing converging to elevate, a great script that just the performances. And Lena Headey as Cersei, she's just so good as that character.
You couldn't wait for Joffrey to die. You couldn't wait for Bolton to die. But with Cersei, I kind of want her to kill everybody.
Well, again.
Yeah, Jon Snow. Gotta die by Cersei.
No. Never.
Daenerys. Kill Daenerys. Cersei win.
No. Even though Daenerys has, I don't know, she's getting a little bratty. But I still love her character because I love her arc. But yeah, I don't know, Cersei, man, like she's had some badass moments, but I don't want to see her on the throne, especially at the end.
I do.
I don't want to see her on the throne.
I want her to kill everybody. A throne of cinders.
She's going to Cersei is herself is going to prevent herself from being on the throne, ending up on the throne. She's losing it. Well, she's lost it at this point.
She is gone.
But I mean, lady, what's the lady's name?
Olenna. Yeah, Olenna Tyrell.
Oh my goodness.
But that's the thing, the end of that episode, man, like you think that Daenerys and her armies have the upper hand, but you realize that, they're on equal ground. Cersei is on equal ground because of how clever she was to give up Casterly Rock because there was nothing there. Which I never understood why Daenerys. I mean, I understand they wanted to cut off their sources and cut off their supplies and whatnot, but them taking, the Unsullied army, your whole army to Casterly Rock, I mean, you're setting yourself up for that, to kind of be, I
don't think she took the whole army.
Maybe not the whole army,
because that was the badass aspect of that siege, was that it was only a handful of them that were able to take it.
Yeah.
And they didn't need their whole army, but they didn't know that that place wasn't fully manned or whatever. But that was the badass for me. I was like, man, that is friggin' awesome that only the handful of Sully took this place. And I think that also goes to just characterize and remind you how good of an army the Unsullied are.
But I like the other aspect of that too, with Jaime and the army taking Highgarden. And basically taking all their gold, because you see in the setup of that one scene when the guy from Bravos comes, because they've been borrowing money from that city to supply their army and whatnot, and so they owed a debt. And I think that was from season 2 or 3 where we learned about them taking out that loan from Bravos and having to repay that money. So I like how they tie all that together with, okay, you see Jaime and their army, okay, they're going to take Highgarden. Now they got the gold from Highgarden, so then they can repay back their debt. I don't know. Everything is kind of playing out. It's pretty cool.
It stays true to the title of the show. Everyone's playing the game, and when you play a game, there's strategies involved, and these different parties have these different strategies. And meanwhile, what I like about it is that all of this subterfuge and all this other stuff going on is secondary to this looming threat that's coming, and it's just great. So. Again, I'm proud of my boy. He's finally on the series now. He's current, caught up. He's in love with it, which is just weird.
Yeah, he shamed me in catching up.
Yeah, that's nuts. He's nuts for the series.
It's a great show, man.
Talking about getting fan art and shit and cosplaying as someone from Game of Thrones next year.
Whoa! Who are you gonna cosplay from Game of Thrones?
Tormund.
And I want people Tormund. Like what the?
It's my dude, man. I gotta get the red beard.
Yeah, you gotta grow that red beard.
I know. I gotta do it, man.
And Brad's gonna be Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
He's gonna dye his hair blonde, so you can give him that.
I'm gonna give you that look.
That look, like.
Oh man, it's an awesome show, man.
So
awesome show.
Yeah, so of course, I'm current on Game of Thrones. I'm looking forward to the next episode tonight. And shout out to Fatima, our Comic-Con family member. She is a huge fan of Voltron. She had a really great year at Comic-Con this year in regards to that show. She got to see, I want to say, the first episode of season 3 of Voltron.
Oh, they showed it there?
Yeah, they showed it at the panel, and she came back from that panel just aglow. She's in love with that show.
I need to watch that.
And here's the thing. It's a great show, right? So what they did, it's weird. So season 3 is kind of like Game of Thrones in that it's been a truncated series. It's only 7 episodes, I want to say. But the cool part is, and it just premiered this past Friday, the cool part is October season 4 comes out. And I want to say it's a shorter season. So I don't know why they're releasing it in that way. But the fact that it's being released so close together to the previous season kind of makes up for it only being 7 episodes. So anyway, that aside, the great thing about this show, and I've talked about previous seasons on the podcast before, season 3, each season I think is better than the previous season. Season 3 is outstanding. As a fan of the original series, what they're doing, again, going back to talking about Death Wish, and if you're going to remake something, how do you tell it in a different light or whatever. So with Voltron, the new series, they're incorporating elements from the original series in new and exciting and invigorating ways. So Prince Lotor is a character who was in the original series from the jump, from the get-go. They didn't introduce him until season 3. And in the way that they introduce him and how he's characterized in season 3 is a breath of fresh air, because he's not just the arrogant prince of Zarkon who I just want to destroy Voltron and send out another road beast and, Voltron wins the day again. Curse you, Voltron, we'll be back. He's not that. Like, they have a nuanced characterization for Lotor in this particular series in that, he comes off as maybe benevolent, but at the same time maybe scheming and smart, but very capable and hand-to-hand. He's a great pilot. He fights alongside his quote-unquote minions instead of sitting in the ship, ruling and saying, go out and destroy Voltron, bring me the Black Lion's head. He's out there with him, and his minions that they got with him are a badass bunch of characters. So it makes for a compelling villain and a different villain than Zarkon from season 1 and 2. So you get that. You have something fresh and new as in regards to the threat. But then how they're introducing original characters, legacy characters from the original series, like Sven. Sven ended up being an additional pilot in the original series. And also in the original series, Keith is the Black Lion, Princess Allura is the Blue Lion, and Lance is the Red Lion, Pidge is the Green Lion, and Hunk is the Yellow Lion. Well, in this series, for the first 2 seasons, the Princess Allura did not pilot a lion. It isn't until season 3 will they introduce the idea of Keith becoming the Black Lion, because in this series, Keith was the Red Lion. And so I thought that it was going to be that way just for the duration of the series, because they introduced a new character named Shiro, who's not in the original series at all. And Shiro's the pilot of the Black Lion in the Netflix series. Well, at the end of series 2, Shiro disappears. In the end of season 2, Shiro disappears, and Keith, all of a sudden, in season 3, is finally given the Black Lion, like in the original series. And it just made me so happy in how they introduced it. Firstly, it switches up the flow in not the format, but it switches up the dynamic of the team for season 3. So again, season 3 feels fresh and not just a rehash of season 2 and season 1. It's a really well-written show. They have some good science fiction concepts in the series, and the animation is top-notch. There's a balance of humor and action and drama that kids can get into it, but if you're an adult, like, you can find something enjoyable and not feel like it's too kiddie. It's not dark. It's not too dark at all. But it's just a very well-rounded series. It's really good. And again, the seasons aren't that long, so it's not hard to get into and catch up. The episodes are only like 22 minutes long, B, so you can catch up in like a day. I watched the entire the third season like in a day.
How many episodes are the first 2?
I want to say like 10 maybe, or 12. The first season is shorter, I think, than the second season, but the second season isn't really that long. It's like your 12 or 13 episodes season. The third season is only 7 episodes.
Okay.
But it's a really good show, and so I was pleasantly surprised to see the turn of events and how the direction they went with season 3. But it's been fun. It's been a fun watch. Other than that, that's been my week in Dork. I got a new VR game called Super Hot, and the concept of the game is like you're in a virtual world. You're playing as a character who's playing a virtual game. He's in a virtual world, and it's like a first-person shooter, so time slows down or stands still. That's my dog Akuma. Time slows down or stands still, and time only moves when you move. So like some dudes will come in a room, you'll see like a dude come in a doorway, and he's got a gun, and it looks like he's frozen in time. Now, when you push the controller and you move forward, that guy slowly moves forward. If you stop, he stops. So when he fires his gun, you see the bullet come out, and you can move sideways, but because in his point of view, you were directly in front of him, so he fires the gun in front of you. So you could sidestep the bullet and then shoot that guy. It's just a really badass video game in virtual world. So I've been playing that. But other than that, man, I've been acclimating to life post Comic-Con.
Boo!
I got my poster up, my Flash poster up and framed, and I got to find one for my Guardians 2. I'm sorry, my Thor Ragnarok poster that we got from the Marvel panel. But other than that, that's been my weekend, Dork. So pretty chill, pretty laid back. I wanted to catch Dark Tower and Girls Trip. Was that the name of that movie?
Booty Hole.
Yeah, I wanted to catch that, but I haven't. But I'll probably try to pick that up this weekend or catch it this weekend. But other than that, what do we got coming out?
Annabelle Creation.
That's it?
That's the main release this weekend.
Ingrid Goes West opens up wide.
Okay, so everyone go check that out. We'll have a fistful on Friday, a fistful of obsessions, it relates to Ingrid Goes West. As Aubrey Plaza plays this young lady who is obsessed with this social media star sensation or whatever, and it just speaks on our Instagram culture right now and our Kardashian and keeping up with these reality stars and who they may or may not be in real life and how that affects us. And it's a really good movie, so definitely check that out. Also, at the Alamo Draft House on Wednesday, August 9th, the Disco Dork's birthday, creative manager Gabe Rusin has been so gracious as to gift me for a birthday present the opportunity to host Masters of the Universe for Secret Society of Filmmakers.
You're hosting?
Come on, man. Come on, B.
But I can't be there.
God damn it, B. I will do an extra good job since you can't be there. So I will, so come out. Tickets are still on sale for that. Come see Dolph Lundgren as He-Man and / Prince Adam, which he never really turns to Prince Adam in this, and I'll bring that up in my intro. So it should be, I'm excited for that. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I haven't seen it on the big screen since the first time I saw it when it was released.
I've never seen it on the big screen.
Really? Damn, B.
So sad.
Damn.
But in-laws. I have to go visit my in-laws.
Oh, okay.
That's where Lisa is.
You got to do the family thing. I understand. That's cool.
But He-Man.
It's awesome. And you know what? I wasn't going to go see it because they have an advanced screening of Good Times, the Robert Pattinson movie, and I saw that trailer about 2 weeks ago. I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, that opens Friday, though.
I've been coming around. I've totally come around on Robert Pattinson as far as his post Twilight film career and his choices. Akuma she's checking out the Dork Cave. Yeah,
we've been podcasting with Puppy.
But yeah, I've come around to Robert Pattinson, and I'm very excited. That trailer looks really good. So I guess I'll check that out Friday instead of Annabelle. Yeah, I'm not really too keen on Annabelle, but yeah. So be on the lookout for our Fistful of Obsessions, and also come and check out Masters of the Universe at the Alamo Draft House in I was going to say Winchester, but One Loudon. Anything you got coming up? Homework cast is coming up soon. White Man Can't Jump. That's Wife Dork's assignment given to her by
me.
You?
Yes.
You know what you're giving her for homework, B?
I kind of... Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah. I have a few options that I'm still weighing. I kind of want to wish... I wish Brian had picked a different movie. As excited as I am...
I know.
That we're doing White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah.
And she's not listening right now. She doesn't listen to this.
Yeah.
Brian should have picked Bad Boys.
I know. I was thinking about it.
Oh, but wait, Sean Penn?
No.
Oh. No, I really, because I was thinking about that, and I still have that on the docket, but
it feels disingenuous if I give her Bad Boys.
I mean, we can wait till it comes back around. Yeah. It's not like we're not going to be doing the show for her. Yeah, so.
Whenever one of you gives her Bad Boys, I'm going to give her Bad Boys too.
Okay.
So she's got to watch them back to back. So just let me know when you're going to do that. I'm going to give her Bad Boys too.
Cool.
All right. Shout out to Wife Dork, Sidewalk Siren. Follow her on social media at Sidewalk Siren. She's not here today, as Brad just mentioned. She's spending time with the in-laws. All right, that's going to do it for us. Brian,
yes.
Tell the people they can find you and your trailer reactions.
Yes, you guys can find me all over the social medias at Brian William Young on Facebook, at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and of course at the ItModcast YouTube channel. We are currently sitting at 124 subscribers.
Damn.
I know we're still small fries, but I'm working to build the podcast up, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, and making some connections as well. So
did JJ call?
JJ
Abrams?
Not yet. I'm still working on that. All right.
What's the coolest most recent trailer? What's your favorite trailer that you've watched so far?
To review, I have fun reviewing the Death Wish one that I just did, even though I had issues with that.
But I mean the trailer that you saw that you was like, oh shit, that's a good trailer. I like that. I got to see that movie.
Well, coming from Comic-Con, I just did a couple from Comic-Con, but a lot of that stuff I've already seen. But
nothing post Comic-Con.
Post Comic-Con, no, nothing that really kind of stood out. I did a trailer reaction to Call Me by Your Name. Which is the new film with Armie Hammer. So that's a more indie film, but that looked kind of intriguing. And then there was another one I did as well, but not a lot of stuff. Not a lot of trailers have been coming up post Comic-Con outside the stuff that we've already seen.
Yeah.
But and got some reviews. I'm working on catching up on reviews. So reviews of all the current films, those will be posted soon.
And Brian loves doing reviews without us.
Yep, fuck those guys.
Well, I mean
fuck those guys.
We can
we
gotta get everybody on the channel, man. But look, I'm like,
fuck y'all.
I'm the only one doing stuff on the channel. I mean, we all can post stuff on there.
Can we? At the same time, like with us all together is what Brad is saying.
Let's do it. Really? We got to coordinate some time.
You gonna wait for us, motherfucker?
Yes, man.
All right. Brad, tell the people they can find you.
You can find me on all social medias at Mouth Dork, and check out my celebration, the 25th anniversary of Unforgiven on Film School Rejects. Hopefully, I've written that by the time you're listening to this.
Did there's a 4K screening, right?
Yeah.
Soon? I gotta get that Blu-ray. I gotta get that 4K disc. Oh my goodness. You got tickets? Are you off that day? You gonna go see it?
I'm gonna go see it.
I wanna go see it too. I haven't seen it in a while. I like that movie.
It's a great movie.
All right. Tell the people where they can find you.
Did you already say
Mouth Dork? Mouth Dork. All right. I'm gonna cheat. I forgot. I'm gonna squeeze in my PS, my stinger for my Weekend Dork. I got my Blu-rays for Ghost in the Shell, my 4K Blu-ray. Awesome image. Subpar, mediocre movie. I'm slowly liking it less and less each time I see it. But I also got my disc, not 4K, Blu-ray for Shin Godzilla. This is my second time seeing it. I love it even more. I love what that movie is doing with the human characters, and as far as how it deals with its handling of a crisis in Japan. Again, if you've heard us talk about the film on a podcast when we saw it theatrically, you would know that it's coming from the angle of how the government in Japan deals with natural disasters, and most recently the Fukushima incident with the nuclear plant. And Shin Godzilla is a commentary on that, and it's great. The angle of having a meeting to decide on what to do for the people and save the day. It's just how it's shot and how it's written. It's just excellent. So yeah, that was my I was cheating, but you can find me at the Disco Dork on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Again, follow Sidewalk Siren at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and that's it. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time, say bye, Kumo.